Looks like Earl has technically dropped something new, even though this doesn't really count since it's one of those live ones that he would do, but it would never have CD quality released, and it finally got released a few years later, and that day is yesterday. Basically, this is called either Vultures or Farm, depending on who you ask. Looks like most people say it's Vultures, so I'm gonna go with Vultures to be safe, because they're more hardcore fans of Earl than me. And this has the same typical aesthetic of the previous Earl, the previous iteration of Earl, which focused on dark, grimy, cold, and the beat, again, really characterizes this as Earl kind of narrates a day in his life and talks about certain aspects of things he's struggling with. What I think is important to take away from this song is that even though it does have those characteristics of what Earl used to be, it isn't necessarily a just kind of one to throw away, which is what I initially thought at first. I was like, okay, this is kind of dark and grimy Earl, and he doesn't really embrace that attitude anymore. He's kind of distanced himself a lot away from that Earl and has tried to progress towards a more positive and well-meaning person. It's not that he wasn't prior, it's just that his music kind of was able to skillfully illustrate the dark side of a lot of emotions that people faced. And so that's what I think got a lot of people into Earl, especially not only that, but his amazing lyricism that really crafted a really well done narrative. And with that, you have this type of vibe, this type of song, and now he's progressing out of that and trying to, again, embrace positivity and growth. And so you would assume when you hear this song, you'd be like, oh, that's...
Well, if he's talking about like the same dark stuff, it's not really good, is it?
Not necessarily. There are a few cool lines on here that I want to highlight. The first being when he was talking to someone and he kind of talks about the fact that wallowing is chosen. Essentially, if you kind of know that you have certain issues that, well, I would like to say within the realm of reality, certain issues that you can face, but you start to choose not to, and you start to wallow in that feeling. That is kind of what he's hinting at here. I don't think he's saying like everyone can just not be sad, because he deals with depression himself. So it's not obviously a simple thing to battle, but just having the choice and taking the choice to battle it versus kind of being stuck in that like quicksand, that ocean of darkness, that really allows for someone to actually combat it. Another cool line that I thought was praying for the kiss of death on my opponent, and talking about how there's scars on his fist when he rose it, which was intended to provoke a notion or emotion, something along those lines. And that's cool because, again, it's talking about him fighting and trying to get out of this. It's not as simple as him just like,
this is dark and grimy, yeah, swimming through it.
This is him like trying to get out of it. He's almost like going through this like these dark times, and actually fighting to get out of it. So you get to see these little hints of Earl fighting through that. So I think that's important to note, that this song isn't just like sort of in the vein of maybe I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside, where it was really, really grimy, but instead it kind of takes on that same solace that same I'm trying to think of another song which he talked about it. I can't think of it, but the song that I'm thinking of is where he sort of is on the road and it finally clicks, everything clicks for him. Along with that, the final line, it's not really chilling per se, but it's kind of just him still acknowledging the fact that things can be dark and difficult. He basically says it's still kind of hard, like it gets hopeless. It can make people hopeless. It can really take that energy, especially when there are a lot of factors that may contribute to trying to fight out of it. Again, that's why I said I don't think he's literally stating that it's simply easy to just feel better, but instead he's like acknowledging that there are factors that like contain that, and the best thing you can do is just try your damnedest to fight that. So wait, I also really like the Vulture line in which he basically says like, you're not gonna poke the armor. I'm already like, even though I'm struggling myself, you can't stop me and you can't stop me. So it's a really nice strengthening thing that he says. I thought it was cool, and I may have forgotten to mention it in my initial recording. Apologies. Vultures is a cool song in terms of it kind of giving a sort of hint at where Earl was going to go in the future, and I think that it's nice to kind of revisit that past. Overall, as a human being trying to navigate through the past, the important thing you can take away is what it taught you and what it provides in terms of now, what you learned from it and how you apply what you learned in the future is what's important. So it's cool, but it's not one that I revisit, not because it's bad or anything, but because I really do enjoy some rap songs, and I'm excited to see how Earl continues progressing down this lane. I'm sure there are a lot of other fans that could attest to this, but that space is kind of just frozen in time now, and we're kind of moving on to the next thing. There's still it's not that they aren't good, it's just there are aspects of it that cannot be related or aren't relatable anymore for some of us who have kind of had emotional growth and been able to navigate those dark times, and so we can't revisit that. And so in a way, we're kind of following Earl, distancing ourselves from that precarious past that may have haunted us in a way. And even though the future brings new problems, these new problems are faced with someone who has more experience and ultimately can handle it better. But yeah, Earl Sweatshirt, Vultures Farm. Well, this guy says, facing vulture problems, that is a crazy pest. Now, all you have to do is literally, caw-caw, caw-caw! It scares them away so fast. Trust me, I would know. I've never faced a vulture in my life.